That's about, I don't know, 10 yards. But they do better holding it straight up and down. I should say holding it on the diagonal does better. If you had a little bit longer arrow, you could do okay with it, I reckon. And I'll be the first to admit, this is the first time I've ever made a bamboo bow. So I've made them before using a little bit of bamboo, but I've never made one entirely out of bamboo. And even the ones I made using a little bit of bamboo, they still didn't turn out as good as I thought they should have turned out. But I'm not a bowyer. That's why I bought one. Get a little bit more brace height, a little bit more preload out of it if you can. Like that. Make it a little bit more tighter. Yeah, I'm definitely editing this video down a bit. Alright, that's got a little bit more pull to it to begin with. That works a little bit better. But it's not that much pull. It's probably about a 45-pound pull at the most, and that's just guessing. My scale will not let me weigh things like this. It's a digital scale, and the weight has to be steady on it. Bummer. But the arrows, these little arrows are the ones that came with my Ben Pearson recurve, and they're only rated to 30 pounds. So the arrows just aren't going to fly straight. But you can see the bow itself is a viable option, especially for close range. You know, if you're out, you know, you're talking squirrel and stuff like that, it definitely work on some squirrel. That bank line, it's a little bit rougher on your fingers than a standard line, but it does work. And if you're hungry, anything will work. I mean, I know y'all can't see it, but it is it's burying the arrow probably 4 or 5 inches into the dirt that I'm shooting at here. And just like any good bow and arrow, it's all about finding that sweet spot for you, because each arrow shoots different for each person. You can see I'm actually holding it. This is the balance point on it, but I'm actually shooting it down here because up here just wasn't working good for me, because the balance point on it is not necessarily where the center of the string is going to be. That would definitely get a squirrel, and if you can't get within 10 yards of a squirrel, you need to come where I live, because they'll walk right up to you and sit on your lap and beg you to kill them. Be right back. Alright, y'all, so as you saw, I said this isn't to replace a self bow, and as you can see, as you use it more, that bamboo starts getting a little memory to it, you'll have to tighten it up. But if you've got some cordage and you've got a pocket knife, just a pocket knife will do this. Pocket knife and a baton, and you can cut bamboo this size, excuse me. But it is a viable option for gathering meat. Large game, no, you're not going to take it. Not unless, you know, you've got a deer that stands up on his back legs and pulls his fur back and says, right here, and puts the arrow on their chest. You know what I'm saying? This thing, in this configuration anyway, you're only looking at about 10 to 20 yards absolute max, and then only just enough power to take small game like rabbits, squirrels, stuff like that. But for that, it works great. Now, I said that's using these little cheap, these arrows weigh nothing. I mean, they're just cheap little wooden arrows. You can see it's got the little field tip on it or whatever. Now, if you made an arrow out of something in the woods, and I looked yesterday and couldn't find any suitable arrow shafts, I'll try to find some river cane today. If you made an arrow that had a little bit more butt to it, that didn't bend so much, because that's what was happening when I was shooting this. You see how flexible that arrow is. I mean, well, and you see how breakable that arrow is. That's how cheap they are. Even with my bend piercing, these arrows go left and right like crazy, because you can see them bending when you shoot them. So I stopped shooting them. I've got some aluminum shaft arrows. But if you make your own arrow shaft out of something, you know, a good 3/8 inch piece of honeysuckle tree or river cane, anything like that, you might add some yardage to it, get some more oomph out of it, and definitely be better. But I mean, you can see that's not quite a 28-inch draw, and that's got a lot of pull to it right there. I mean, so it's a good viable option for doing something in the woods quick with bamboo, and this is the first in my series on things you can do with them. I'll be doing a fire starting session here in the next few days, provided it stays dry enough that I can collect some dry bamboo. But I'll do a fire starting session and a few other things that you can do with this, so be looking for those. Now let's go check on my water, and I'll see you in the next video.